for 90-minute surgery.
Yeah. Ready? Okay. Good evening, everybody. Today is Thursday, February 8th, 2024. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and this is the CROA Board of Directors workshop. And today we're going to focus solely on the management company action plan. So we'll call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. Charles, are you online?
I'm online.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so there are 5 of us here. So we have a quorum, and we have a motion to adopt the agenda. Gary and Celia. Okay. Now I know Charles sent us an email with his thoughts, and I'm assuming that you got that email and your presentation or comments will be revolving around here. Mm-hmm. So do you want to just, you have something prepared? Do you want to just take it away, or do you want us to ask you questions? Or
we have something prepared.
Oh boy.
Absolutely.
Do we want to vote on the agenda? Do we need to vote on the agenda?
All right. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, sorry about that.
Sorry.
All right. Well, we are, first of all, thank you for having us here today and allowing us time to focus on this very important area of our action plan. And so what we'd like to start with, and as soon as Lauren gets back, Vanna, as soon as she gets back to the computer, we'll go through the presentation. Thank you to the residents who are here with us. And
we do have a crowd today.
And if anyone is online, we're so happy you're here. Thank you so much. So Lauren, if you would go to the slide deck. Excellent. So we wanted to share an executive summary with everybody here, and then we'll go into some details in terms of the action plans themselves, the items, the status we are, and naturally it will open it up for questions. If anyone has any questions, we would be delighted to answer them. Great. So from an executive perspective, we put together a timeline just to kind of reestablish where we started and all the way through where we are today. And that way it kind of just reminds us about the journey we've been on. So in July of 2023, there was the board experience survey that was conducted. And based on 141, and this was based on 141 items from the statement of work that was directly from our management agreement. I do want to just take a moment to just share with the board, and of course, if any membership is here, the management agreement that was constructed was based on, believe it or not, the template from the CCMC management agreement, and it was a unique agreement just for celebration. It was not the Grand Manners template. Our standard management agreement looks completely different. And so that was constructed by the current board and Tom Slayton, of course, the association attorney, and we were happy to comply with that format. And so part of that management agreement was the statement of work of things that we were responsible for. And that was what the board experience survey was based on. Then from September 29th, I'm trying to read from here, Lauren, so I don't know if we can make that any bigger by any chance. So between September 29th, fantastic, thank you, through October 10th, we deployed the resident experience survey, and that was based on 13 questions about their experience. November 8th, there was the CROA board workshop, where the board presented the feedback from both the board and resident experience surveys to the Grand Manners team. And then on November 29th, a couple weeks later, the CROA board held a meeting where Grand Manners presented our 120-day action plan to improve the board and resident experience. So that was on November 29th. Next slide, please. That's okay. Thank you very much. And then on December 8th, we started our CROA action plan status calls. So every week, and that has gone on for every week from December 8th through current day, there's a weekly meeting held between Lauren Jeffrey, myself, Corbin Setti, our senior vice president, and Demetrius. And we go through all the action items, status of, where are we? So together we're coaching and talking through where we are with all the action plans. And then in December, we deployed Monday.com. And that is an online platform that we're using to establish, track, monitor, and communicate all of our action plan items. And as of December 8th, we've also established a communication cadence, which is sending out a weekly action plan update that is emailed to the board. It is also published to the residents via Monday Matters and posted to the celebration website. Monthly updates are also provided in the board packet and shared during the monthly board meetings. And then that brings us through today, which is that we are here at the CROA board workshop where we're sharing our action plan update with everybody and allowing for questions and answers. So from an executive summary perspective, that's the timeline. So when you think about when we're running through the action plan items and what we've accomplished, it really has just been 2 months, right, since we truly took off with the action plan and got to where we are today. Of course, we're hoping everybody is pleased when you see all of the great hard work that the town hall team has put into working through all of those items. All right, next slide. So again, to reframe and get us all thinking about, okay, what did we hear? Again, from an executive perspective, when we talk about the board member survey, at that time, there were 7 board members that were surveyed. And the survey, again, was focused on a 5-point scale, as we could see here, and focused on all of those statement of work elements. Out of the 141, we met or exceeded those statement of work elements, and that was about 74%, if you round up, of those elements. And then 37 or 26.2% of them, we did not meet the statement of work items. Now, that was over the course of time. It was from the start of our contract through that date of the survey. So it was about 2 years and really 2, 3-ish boards, right, that were a part of that journey, right? So the board members that started with us, some of them weren't even here that were part of that survey. Sure. So some of the board members had a very short line of sight, and then others had a much longer line of sight to all of those items. So when we looked at where we did well and where we needed to improve, you'll see the items in green were either met or exceeded. And we also looked for verbatim, which is the actual feedback on, well, what were those things we didn't do well on in the board's opinion? And there was very little verbatim, meaning we just had scores, right? So in other words, we literally would have had to sit down and go through every single statement of work item and say, okay, well, where do you see that we didn't, right, meet, exceed, or where we did exceed? But from what we read and from what we discussed with the board after that initial discussion, we realized that for C, where you see finance, accounting, and cash management, there were items that were not in alignment from our start, but they were resolved by the time we got to the actual survey with the board, and we did not hear of anything otherwise that we needed to correct. So there was no action plan for that one. However, contract procurement, oversight, and supervision, there was a lot of feedback we got on that. We did create an action plan, and we'll go through how we've gotten through that, and it is actually resolved today. But that was an area we focused on. And then committee support was another area where we found there were items we could specifically focus on and create an action plan on. Next slide, please. That's okay. Right, so now with the resident experience survey, again, from an executive summary, there were 4,653 owners that were sent the survey. We heard only from 634, which is 14% of the membership. That's a low response rate in general. However, from what we heard, and it was based on these 12 elements that we see on the left, we read through the feedback, and which was really great because there was a lot of great feedback that we were able to now take action from, right? There was actual things that were very, very articulate and cited. So based on the amount of comments that we heard, we categorized it and prioritized it in the order that we see on the right side. So custodial service, general maintenance, recreation, customer service and professionalism, covenants, communication, technology, and architectural review. So in order of priority, based on the number of comments we received, we prioritize our action plan to those 7 items. Next slide, please, Lauren. So now Lauren is going to share the details in terms of the action plan items and the status of where we are, so that we could see how much we've accomplished from December through, we'll say, current day. So over to you, Lauren.
All right, so this is the board experience action plan status based on the open items that we saw based on the board scope of work grading. Priority number 1 for us was the contract vendor and project management piece that was scored very low by the board. Immediately upon receiving that feedback, we wrote and implemented new project management, procurement, contract management, and vendor management policies based in best practices in those areas. Those were shared with the board in December. Those are a living document, so as we see challenges throughout our processes, we will be adjusting and bending to them, but that has been implemented and utilized for some recent procurements and the vendor management lately and contract management. Financials, again, there was no action plan that was implemented. Committee support, there was an updated SOP implemented for the staff in September of 2023 based on the comments that I heard at the resident survey workshop that I don't think the rest of management was present for. And that really centered around website timeliness, meeting minute timeliness, where to go for things, agendas, meeting information, videos, things like that. So that new SOP is very clear and who's responsible for what and when their timelines are for meeting those. Moving into the community experience action status plan, we took a big focus on custodial and maintenance items. We established weekly meetings with the landscaping vendors and pool vendors. We established monthly grading of the landscaping and pool vendors that are published to the website. We've also recently added into that the amenity center grading in terms of cleanliness as well. So Jeff and I have eyes on the amenities frequently and providing regular feedback to the staff. We have hired 2 porters. Well, actually, we've hired 1 porter. There's an offer, or there's a pending, almost approved offer for a second. That should drastically help with the cleanliness, so our maintenance team can focus on preventative maintenance. We have a formalized preventative maintenance program, but we are actually going to formalize that in Monday.com and publish that to the residents. So there's an additional accountability piece as well. We've prepped for 2024 reserve amenity projects, some of which are pool decks, bathroom refreshes, and potentially playground. And we've also scheduled regular meetings with other governing entities, the condo management companies, and board representative, along with CBD management as well, to stay in touch with each other and make sure that we're all on the same page with items. Another large area was customer service. There were 7 main topics there. One of them was reestablishing email responsiveness expectations, which was done. We established a reporting mechanism for ShareNet email responsiveness, so we can report that to the board in their monthly packet. We established a mechanism for tracking phone and voicemail responsiveness, so we can report that to the board. We've created ongoing training modules for the staff. 7 out of 10 of those training modules have been created and issued to the team. The remaining will be completed by the end of February. We've improved our teleservice responsiveness. quite quite well. There was a new SOP that was implemented in October of 2023 with response timelines, acknowledging receipt of items and closing tickets, and even establishing guidelines for our vendors as well, because we have our landscaping vendors hooked into Cella service, and we will be continuing that expectation as we transition into My Celebration FL or GoGov, as many people know it today. We also issued a resident satisfaction survey that's out on the amenity screens. It's at the front counter, and the staff have cards with the QR code on them. So as they interact with residents in the community, if residents want to provide feedback, they have a mechanism to do that.
Can I ask a question, Mark? So how do you check understanding and all the training that you're doing, especially when it comes to?
They have a test at the end of their video modules. And if they don't pass, I get an email.
And then they have to look at it again.
Then they,
And again.
and there's some additional training that is provided. The next focus area was covenants. We had some issues with inconsistency amongst the inspectors and have implemented a training program and auditing. The training program, we've also engaged with the covenants committee to ensure that they're involved as well and everybody's on the same page. We've implemented a rotation of the inspectors in the villages, so there's new eyes on different locations every quarter. We have monthly field trainings. Each inspector has a checklist that has been updated. We are working on reviewing off-the-shelf programs to reduce the heavy manual intensity of the covenants process currently, because we don't have a software system for that. That's a priority for us, and Metris is involved in assisting with that as well. They focused on improving the quality and content of the Monday Matters articles, and the covenants group is also involved in the new owner orientation. So new owners or existing owners who just want some more information about town hall and what we do here can come and kind of get a debrief on all things town hall, the management company, covenants, ARC, and frequently asked questions.
Speaking of, I have another one.
Mhm.
So the process before was that it was a great idea to have the inspectors having their own neighborhoods. That way they would get familiar with the properties, blah, blah. I noticed that now you've changed that and decided that for whatever reason, that wasn't a good idea. Can you share a little bit how you came to that conclusion?
If you see the same thing over and over and over again, small progressive changes aren't as easy to catch as if you're seeing something new and fresh and you haven't seen it before. The perfect example is why we're having Jeff or myself do landscaping inspections instead of Brian. Brian's out in the field every single day. He sees those parks every single day. So things that gradually over time might become out of compliance, it's going to be easier for somebody with fresh eyes to spot it than somebody who sees it every day and the gradual change.
One more question. So it seems like we've been working, have been working on a new system to automate covenants, and it's been going on like forever.
Mhm.
We getting any closer? I mean, what's?
Yeah, we got two demos. Jose is still working on an option as well, but we've had two demos. Two companies do that, and we have a third hopefully scheduled.
And then
These are software companies.
Yes.
Can I ask you?
HOA Start, Smart Web. I don't remember the third one.
That's
But they are dedicated. That's what they do. Violations in ARC applications.
do we have to pay them to do that?
There will be a cost.
We have to pay them?
You,
It's software.
just you.
Well, serious software we were getting. Sorry.
No, we understand that.
And we're his software on covenants.
There are a lot of great features within CRNet that don't exist in others. And then there are some features of CRNet that aren't The community dependent may not fit as configurable as it is. This is one area that, based on the way that celebration structures its way of conducting covenants, the system doesn't have that capability. That is indeed the case. And so when we figure out the cost on this, we absolutely can sit down and talk about that and see how we can amicably figure that out, right? Because if the software works for 98% of real managed clients, and it's celebration that is so specific, then that's something that we just have to talk about, right? Because the alternative is, and I'm not suggesting this, is that celebration fits its methodology to fit the software. And we're not going to push that. Clearly not going to push that, right? So that's just something that we're going to have to talk through together. And we acknowledge it. It's just the fact of the software.
I want to say Smart Web is who they were using when I was working here.
It is. It's the program that CCMC utilizes.
Carry on.
Moving on into communications, was another hot topic. We've done cross training and gotten tools for grammar items as well, so the lifestyles and communications team can be better at providing accurate information and copy editing for when the other managers supply them information to be published in many of our forums. We changed our publication review process to improve professionalism and accuracy. We removed at the community feedback workshop, it was one of the emphasis points was the call center number was still floating around out there, and people were still getting to that one instead of getting to town hall. So we removed the call center information from the portal and all our collateral communication. So now everything should point to town hall as a phone number. We've been working on social media best practice implementations, and the team has actually found some good trainings, and they're undergoing those right now. Next is technology.
I got the question. So I think I've been speaking for myself, and I'm sure others on the board feel this way too. There's a lot of errors in communications. I heard you say, they're learning, grammar and, how to write maybe a better, more saleable sentence if you're, there's different ways of writing for different things, as everybody knows. But how are you going to tackle the
small errors?
The small errors. That's really a concern.
We've talked about our review process, and part of what the communications professional that GM is paying for into the training is that copy editing review process and best practices for that. We also talked about slowing down the pace, and often back in the back office, it's get it out now, let's get it done. But we need to slow down our pace, focus on what we're doing, make sure everything's correct. Even if it's out a couple minutes late, it's better to get it out a couple minutes late and correct than to meet the 10 a.m. deadline for the Friday flash or the Monday matters.
Do you think that this in-house training that you're doing, the documents and all that kind of stuff will, and I assume you're doing documents, you're doing service areas, you're doing every facet in town hall.
Mm-hmm.
Do you expect that to help as well as far as communication goes? So
that's part of
they'll be able to, Bell will go off and say, well, wait a minute, this doesn't pertain to a service area, or
that's exactly why we're doing the training for everybody. So everybody has a frame of reference, not only to improve the communication staff ability to edit and make sure things are correct before it's going out, but also to improve the customer service piece. So if somebody from Parks and Rec happens to pick up the phone and get a service area question, they can answer the frequently asked questions about service areas and not have to transfer it over to roads and deletes.
Frequently asked questions. I wonder, because your folks in your call center have that, don't they, pretty much for the different communities that you manage?
They have access to the CRNet portal so they can answer any frequently asked questions. So they know where to go to for how do I make a maintenance payment? What are the hours for town hall? There's a community information section within the community profile where it gives the resident service agents the information they need. And our team has the access to the same thing.
Is it accurate?
It is. The questions that we're talking about that we get frequently are far more detailed than just what's on that community information page in CRNet. It's who's my landscaping vendor and when do they come and mow the lawns, or, you know, when is my sprinkler day or sorry, irrigation day? Things like when is celebration sanitation coming? And if it's on a holiday, what day are they coming after the holiday? Things like that.
I don't know what you could create something like that for.
They are already working on it. Yes. So in
I think this
addition,
is-
go ahead, Charles.
No, and I was going to say, and I don't want to like speak out of turn, but I think this is an area where I know when we had our strategic session, April and May, we did talk about communications and communication committees. So depending on obviously, you know, where the next board lands, I think that's something that I think we need to definitely look at to I think get some of these things rallied around you.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, Charles, and for the board and, you know, for the residents that are listening, we were talking about that just before this session, which is the Grand Manners Town Hall team can put out all kinds of communication, but without a feedback partner to tell us this is resonating, it's good, it's bad, please don't ever send this again, what have you, would really be helpful to make sure that we are, right, where the communication is effective and the content is effective, right? Because we can think it's like we're legends in our own minds. It's everything everyone would ever want, but it may not be. So the communications committee would be, I think, just a great committee to stand up.
We actually had that discussion in the technology meeting last night. I was
Yeah.
going to bring it up at our board meeting.
We had a technology committee years ago. I don't know, remember why it
No,
went away.
communication.
I mean, the communication, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
communications committee years ago. I don't know why it went away.
And not that they need to create content, but be a sounding board, you know, give us direction.
Wait till the end. I'll forget all my poignant questions.
Oh, it's good. It's interactive.
Next, moving into technology. One piece was website optimization, and Jose and the technology committee are actively engaged in working on this. They've been reviewing the plugins. Jose just installed Google Analytics on the website to give us some additional information, and they'll be actively working through this jointly. We have implemented content upload guidelines that ties in with the committee support piece as well. So the staff have their designated responsibilities for content uploading and who's responsible for getting it to the communications team, how long the communications team has to post it after meetings or after receipt. We've also mapped all the technology, and we've created utilization guidelines for CRNet and the website in terms of where information should be. In reality, the celebration.fl.us is kind of the one-stop shopping for information and accurate information for residents. So that's the main focus. The next focus area was ARC. Process understanding. This is in progress. We are working on some community awareness campaigns, and we're engaging some community members to actually assist us with this. We'll be issuing videos, little short clips, so people better understand the ARC process, how it works, who's responsible for what happens when you submit your application, what do I need to put in my application, just so to make the experience better, so people coming in have an easier time getting to. We've been working on improving the Monday Matters ARC articles as well. ARC is fully engaged in the new owner orientation, as I mentioned, similarly with the covenants team. And we've been working on the process mapping and timing, which should be completed shortly so we can publish that to the community so they have that
When you say new owner orientation, that's different than what Celia and her group do.
Yeah, so Celia's group is Community Connections, and that's an overview of all the main governing entities in Celebration, what we do, what we're responsible for, and really how can you engage in those entities and engage in the community. New owner orientation is coming into Celebration as a new owner. What am I responsible for? What does town hall do? What's the board's responsible for? Where do I go for this?
Do you invite new owners as they come
We
online?
do. When people come in with their new owner paperwork and for their ID badge, we invite them to the upcoming new owner orientation or say, hey, check, if you don't want to come now, you're more than welcome to
What kind
come.
of response do you get from people?
We've had an average of about 20 people attending our orientations.
And is it once a month?
It was every other month. We're looking at going to once a month.
Nice.
Can I ask a question back under technology?
Yes.
The technology mapping, what does that consist of?
A variety of different things. It's what technologies utilized for what. It's mapping of your systems and your servers. It's a wide range of things. It's basic documentation of all of your technology, what it's for, where it is, and how it interacts with each other.
Are there subtasks in that one?
There's a lot of
Yeah,
subtasks in
yeah.
that one. Yeah.
As far as ARC goes, we've been talking about trying to find efficiencies in the approval process, because the workload is really much too large for the volunteers, roughly 100 a month. I think last I understood, we needed a board approval to take some of those approvals and allow staff to do them.
Yeah,
You know,
you would
the
need
simple, straightforward.
you would need a board resolution to put some of that on staff.
Aren't you kind of working on what those things might be?
Yeah, I think there needs to be some additional conversation with the board on what actually, because that can create some liability for us as the staff if somebody is approving a paint color that looks like it is the same color and the individual's saying it is the same color on their application, but it actually isn't. And then they spend $10,000 to paint their home and whoopsies, here's a covenants violation. It's not correct. So yes, it would be a training piece on the staff, but I think like those boundaries need to be discussed with the board before we finalize that.
Can that be like a subgroup to the ARC committee? Like, there's the ARC committee. And then you have like a little branch off.
You ran the risk of being inconsistent.
Is this something that's going to be provided with all the subcategories?
Yeah, I can give you the subcategory.
And those are included in, like, the board has access to the monday.com. Do they have access to
They
it?
have visibility. They can't drill down.
Ah, okay,
So-
okay. That's- Yeah.
I mean, dear, if you go to the park book, like I looked up my house and, my tree fell over, so I got a new tree, but I need to get an approval. Anybody can do that as long as it's on the approved list, which I was working off of. So it seems like that kind of straightforward stuff staff can do. I want to change to a front door color. If it's not on the list, then I've got to go to ARC, but if it's on the list, it seems straightforward and approvable by staff.
No, I
Are
don't
there
disagree
any?
that. Go ahead, Charles.
No, go ahead. I'll go after you.
I was gonna say, I don't disagree that there are items that you could probably push down as either auto approved. If it's within this established guidelines, then it doesn't need to go to the committee. It's auto approved. And thus it's effectively staff approving it, or staff can verify and then say, yes, that works. But I think maybe some discussion with the ARC covenants and board together as one to determine kind of what those categories should and ought to be is probably the best route to do.
I know there was probably some reason for it 25 years ago, but I remember the first thing that I came upon when we built our house here was I found out that I couldn't plant the kind of flower I wanted in my front yard. It's been so many years. There's probably so many people that just went ahead and randomly planted whatever they thought was pretty. I mean, don't throw anything at me, Gary. But I almost wonder if those kinds of ARC things, where I want to put a petunia in my front yard, and you have to get it approved kind of thing. I mean, maybe something as minute as that could go away after all these years. Because I bet you there's a lot of,
We have a plant.
I know,
Plant list.
I know, but it's how many pages long? I mean,
Oh, it's only 8 feet.
So,
well, there you go. But anyway, that's just me. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
But you have to find your house style first.
Well, I know, but I mean,
And
that doesn't make any sense. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I was just
Yeah,
trying to
but the
guess.
plantings are tied to the.
yeah, does it make sense? And maybe this is a takeaway for the Grand Manners leadership team. With your other associations, is there any form of like technology or software that maybe auto adjudicates those types of things, or something that maybe creates some level of balance where, I don't know, some level of like triage almost, like, all right, if it's this and it's Ring doorbell, it's gonna auto approve. I heard a little bit of that conversation, but is that something? And again, I'm not putting you on the spot now to answer that. Maybe as a takeaway, maybe are there any other associations that are maybe using that we can look into, or any best practices that you can see over your your network of properties?
Yes, absolutely, Charles. Well, we're going to look into that because I do believe that there are some based on policy that can be auto approved, and then other things have to go through board or ARC approval.
Either way, I think we need a board, correct me, we need a board action
Yep.
that's specific as the,
Right, yeah, that has to happen, right? We're not going to see the board policy.
Not to mention the big
Right, we have
appeals
to,
issue.
right, we have to create the dictionary, and then whatever that looks like, technology
Yeah,
wise, or
it's a joint board covenants ARC meeting to,
Mainly art.
to discuss that.
Sorry.
Jared,
did we answer your question, by the way?
No, but
Okay,
the information there can
okay,
help you.
okay.
We don't need to do that here. I think that's a very vague topic, and that answer didn't really answer, but I could figure that out.
Yeah, we could provide you the subtasks.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
we have a variety of different technology mapping items, so that's why I'm
Sure. Yeah. I just didn't know that was something that was identified as the board saying needs improvement.
this was the community feedback area.
Okay.
And this technology mapping is really what we're utilizing in terms of resident engagement. What's the best way to use these different pieces of technology for engagement and getting things out there and information out there? So this comes back into kind of some of the questions that Charles was asking over email, highlights and lowlights over the last couple of months. Highlights, we had a quick turnaround on development and implementation of the project management, procurement, vendor management, and contract management protocol to improve that, as that was a #1 priority and takeaway. We've gotten a lot of positive responses in seller service in relating to the improved timeliness of addressing reported issues, which has resulted in increased compliments to staff and vendor performance. The Monday Matter information has improved and led to higher view rates. We've improved the timeliness and accuracy of website updates. Admittedly, there's still improvement to be made, but that has improved. Lowlights, there's in some of the auditing that Jeff and I have been doing, we've been taking a deeper dive into our correspondence audits with the staff. Some soft skill deficiencies became apparent. We've been addressing those through training, accountability, and disciplinary actions as appropriate. And also as a result of our increased responsiveness and seller service and communication with the residents, we've received some feedback of a high level of community frustration resulting from the need for greater awareness in the community partners and their areas of responsibility. So we are moving forward. We were originally going to start our community awareness campaign in March. We're going to accelerate that and start that this month.
What is it?
Yeah, explain what you're talking about,
Yeah.
'cause I'm losing you. It all sounds very, very grand, but
There were So there have been a number of cell service tickets that were assigned to town hall that were not ours. They were reassigned to the appropriate entity. The entity closed it out. It was resubmitted the next day as not completed. We engaged with the resident and said, thank you for submitting this. We will submit this to the appropriate entity and we will contact that entity as well. It got closed again, which led to a couple of expletive laced phone calls about the item that needed to be addressed. That's one example. There have been quite a number of them in the last couple of months in that vein. So we're taking items that we can address that are not an expense for CROA. We are addressing if they become frequent complaints. One example is somebody threw a Christmas tree in a preserve area that was visible from the road. So when it came to our attention, we went, picked it up and took it to the shop. But we need to engage with the community and create some community awareness and work with our partners on how we respond jointly. Greatest improvement has been the cell service responsiveness and ticket closing. The maintenance team and our vendors, I'll say, because we linked our landscape vendors in there, they are responding to residents and closing tickets in a more timely manner. Continuous training modules, we've issued 7. There are 3 more to go for the staff. As I said, there's a test at the end. If they don't pass the test, then they get some additional training and coaching from us. The vendor accountability, we've had the weekly meetings, monthly grading, the staff getting CPO certified have all greatly improved the accountability piece.
Which is certified pool.
Certified pool operator.
Yeah.
So we're better able to hold our vendors accountable, improving the service that you're receiving from them. The new project management protocol is assisting in that as well, making sure the vendors are on track with all their projects. We have a lot of small projects going on in the community at any given time. So keeping track of those has been a big area of importance. Areas where we would say we need to continue to pay attention. The covenants training, the inspectors have improved, but we need to continue improving on consistency through our field trainings and checklists. And now that we have a 4th CROA inspector, we are mathematically able to meet our quarterly inspections. So we're implementing a weekly street assignments to each inspector for accountability and to make sure that all the homes are inspected once a quarter. Community awareness campaign, we're escalating the timeline from March to February, as I said previously. The focus is going to be on covenants, ARC, and community partner relationships. Communications, the team's been undergoing training with the consultant paid for by Grand Manners. That began in January and is ongoing. The pace and review process has been modified with the aim of improving accuracy and content quality. And they've engaged in training in best practices for social media usage as well, but need to continue to improve in that area. Soft skills, we're auditing emails weekly and observing resident interactions at the front counter. We're ingesting some seating arrangements for the staff for improved accountability, providing response guidance, and introducing weekly customer service reminders and monthly training at our staff meetings as well.
I have to say, I have had a couple of residents approach me and said that, I don't know what that is at the counter there, that
QR
gives all the
A
information.
flip book. Mhm.
They think that's like the greatest thing. I said, what are you talking about? And they go in the flip book, because while I'm standing there waiting to get help, or the receptionist is helping me, I flip through it and I have a question answered that I always forget to ask. It's just sitting right there for the resident to see. So that's a not customer service,
One of
resident
those
service.
School desk things that in plastic that you could flip through for content
Yeah,
information.
they're like, you think what you put out there.
I'm just gonna throw this out there because it's on the spot, but I mean, as a gift, what if we created one for every home in this community?
What do you
If it
mean?
really,
No, because it changes.
Yeah.
It
so we
changes.
send an update,
It's-
right?
it's
That's
different
another
than-
gift. It's a recurring.
It's different than the bulletin board where people see posts. They're standing there at the desk, waiting for the
Yeah.
receptionist to take their picture, take their money, get information.
Yeah,
And they're flipping through it and they're saying, oh, wow, I didn't know this. or,
Right.
I didn't know that. I
so
think
it's like
so
it's a home binder.
residents are noticing it.
Yeah, that's great. So maybe we have an opportunity there.
We'll look and see how we can expand on the impact of that.
Yeah.
That's why I've always been a big fan of brochure packs. Because when people are standing there, if you have someone that says, what you need to know about covenants or whatever, people pick it up, they look at it and like you said, they say, I didn't know that. And then they put it in their purse if they
You could
were
always
thinking
do
of
virtual
virtual.
bags.
That's
No, that's not what, a virtual thing is one thing. I'm talking about when the resident is standing at the window.
No, and I agree with that, but
Yeah.
I don't think we need to spend money to send 4,000 homes.
No, it's just
A
at the
book.
desk. Yeah.
Right, so we can
I-
take that
we can
book and
easily
digitize
digitize
it.
it.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
that's what.
and put that on the website, and it'll still have that flip feel.
I
that you're
think
talking
that's
And
what-
when we update it, on the hard copy,
It's
we can
all on
update
the
it on the
website. It's part of the welcoming packet.
Yeah.
It's just added information monthly that they put in there.
The format of it is nice, I
Yeah,
agree.
it's really nice. So I don't know who
We can
came
look-
up with it, but kudos to whoever did.
and we'll give the kudos to Heather on that one, and we will look at how we can expand the reach of it. PACE, we've been having consistent conversations as a management team about the need to ensure the pace and priorities we are focusing on are correct and in alignment with the board, so we get things right the first time and address the areas of greatest impact to the community. Preventative maintenance and resident visibility. We're going to formalize our preventative maintenance schedule in Monday.com and publish that to the residents. So not only does Monday.com allow us to hold our team accountable in terms of timelines and who's doing things and is the job done correctly, but it also allows the community some visibility into what's happening when and why.
Questions? Who put this all together?
We
Just
did.
jointly.
We did.
Did you have a big part of it, Lauren?
The local team has been,
Yeah,
responsible.
I mean,
for
just
the-
the creating of all
Yeah.
the,
Just
Of all the
because you know your
courses
team,
and-
I think this is just a lot that you've, I mean,
accomplished in
there's work
60
that needs
days.
to be done, but I think you and your team have accomplished a lot since July. So thank you. Thanks, Jeff, since you're part of the team now.
Yeah.
And thanks for the mulch at Lakeside.
Well, and there's so many things that your staff does on a day-to-day basis, how hard they work. I mentioned, I was here for a meeting a couple weeks ago, and just how quickly they came in and changed the room around. I mean, everybody's, got a job to do, they do it, and then for you to find the time and the energy with yourselves and your staff to put all this other ancillary stuff together is just, you guys rock.
Well,
And thank
and I don't. So I know there's a lot of positive feedback right now, and that's great. But I think what I would advise is that I think we need to be a little bit more neutral here, right? And make sure, obviously, that continues to be sustained and
Of
continue to. Yeah, you got to be careful here, and it's good that we're both making progress, but we need to sustain that. We need to keep building on it, and we need to get consistent at it, because this is all well and good. This is great. What worries me is, are we going to fall back into where we were 7, 8, 9 months ago? So I want to kind of make sure we temper the conversation with that. And I don't mean to, cast a shadow over this conversation. And we still have a ways to go. Also, there's a lot of things, to Stacy's point. There are a few months into this. We're not quite there yet. So
No, but they
No,
certainly hit
nobody's
the
saying
ground
we
running.
are. There's still work that has to be done. I'm just complimenting her on what they've gotten to so far.
And the volume of ideas and different ways to, you know, accomplish your goals is, I think, good things coming yet. Lots of them.
And as a next step too, yeah, well, oh, thanks, Gary. As a next step also, our intention is to send a pulse survey out to the community. And our idea was to do it next week so that we can, again, run through the 7 items that we have been focusing on and get feedback on, are you noticing a difference? Right? Because again, it's kind of the communication thing. We think we're doing all these great things, but is it impacting the community in a positive way? We want to hear back from the residents to know what kind of impact we've been making here. And Charles, to address the, you know, going back to the way it was 8-9 months ago, that would just absolutely be I'll fall on the sword right here in front of everybody, an absolute nail in the Grand Manor's coffin. We will not let that happen. That's just that's a hard stop not happening. The weekly action plan status calls aren't going away until we finish every single item. They aren't stopping until we're done. So myself personally, as I'm on those calls every week, will continue to be on those calls every week and press the team for updates or press the board for action if and when that's required. And I think another good highlight here in terms of all of those items that have been accomplished and those that we still want to, the only thing I believe, Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong, in terms of cost, because Grand Managers is absorbing the cost for the training consultant in communication, and we're happy to do that, is maybe the $1,000 for CPO certified. I mean, I don't know that there's even been a large spend on accomplishing all these things. So
The CPO certification and the small addition of the enterprise level tracking on the phone system.
right, was, yeah, a couple $1,000s, right. So I think this has set us up for a way to ensure that we're holding ourselves accountable and that we're creating the accountability partner with the community and the board, right? And as we know, management, other than a very small threshold of spend, is only as good as the decisioning that and partnership that we have with the board, right? So there's a lot of things that, right, we're going to continue to work towards with the new board to partner and make sure that we align on what those important things are and that management is able to execute on those things. And we're going to talk about those more. And the coaching we've had with Lauren and team is we have to socialize that and create awareness about those things that we're stuck doing because we need authorization, right, to move forward from the board, right? If it's not our money to spend, right, it is the board's decisioning. They're the governance and fiduciaries. So with that partnership, yeah, we can bring a whole lot to the table and hopefully move forward with all those great things for the community.
With the laundry list of things that you had to, for lack of a better term, fix, how many of those things percentage-wise would you say you've at least touched on in 60 days?
It's a great question. Yeah, we were showing that. I want to be exact. I'm an accountant. I like to give you a real number, not just throw a number out there. A significant amount, but Lauren can take a look at the Monday.com data and be able to tell us. But in 2 months, it's pretty impressive. Yeah, Charles.
No, and just to put a pin in what we were just talking about, and I appreciate that, Stacy. I just don't want us, where my comment was going was, and you can look at this in kind of the real world, when we put sod down somewhere and we don't maintain the sod, or we don't repair the sprinklers, or we don't fix the irrigation. I just don't want us to be in a situation where we put down all this sod and we're not, I mean, and it sounds like, from what I've heard and what you've discussed and the work that's been done, you're focusing on the broken processes or where there weren't processes. So that's where I'm really concerned about. I want to make sure that we're not just fixing these things. We're not just putting Band-Aids on them. You're creating the best practices. You're creating the processes. You're getting things to us. You're getting the funding that's needing to get funded, all that. So that's the message that I wanted to convey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And we appreciate that. And I think Lauren could also speak to what has been put in effect, and that means we're doing them going forward that weren't in place prior.
Yeah, so out of the 36 items that were kind of outlined based on the community feedback, there are 4 that we haven't gotten to yet. They were items that were in the March timeframe when we initially outlaid it. There's a handful that are in progress. The rest of them are done, but really done means in effect, a new process or change modifications have been made to existing processes. So there are things that we need to stay on top of, make sure they don't fall backwards, and continue to change and adjust and modify as we see things don't work, maybe would work in a better way, things like that.
I imagine new things pop up too, as you're working on something. It's like, oh. Mr. Hudspeth. Hi.
Gary Hudspeth. I'm pleased to see that Grand Manners has taken this, I can't think of a better word, but seriously, because I knew you would. And you're right, this is an ongoing project. This is just an update today. And you, of course, should be moving forward with plans in place and yet to come that will show improvement as time goes by. But it's continuous for the next 25 years. We're going to have 3 and possibly 4 new board members coming on in the next month. You folks are going to have to train them to not accept the status quo when they walk in the door, because they don't have the experience that you did in the last 6 months or several years. But since we did the survey, you're going to have to remind them that this is where we've gotten, but we have more to go.
Right.
And remind them that we're still progressing in getting things done better in Celebration in accordance with the contract and in accordance with the statement of work. So don't let them think that everything's hunky-dory. Now,
That being said,
just a reminder, the RFP committee, which consisted of 5 residents here and 3 board members that were liaisons to the RFP task force, that were excellent because they were there at every meeting and helping to shape what we did for the RFP. One of the reasons that we created the statement of work in the beginning is that we didn't have one before. And for 25 years, the board was at a loss of how to get the management company to abide by the contract or do better, because there was nothing but the contract. And even though it's specific in most places, it's actually vague in other places. So the statement of work was something new that you could put your finger on, that the community, the board, wanted the management company to do specifically. And that's why it's 16 pages long. But we thought we canvassed other communities in Florida as well as outside the state and came up with this checklist of things that should be done. And we think it's pretty realistic for a community and very specific to Celebration. That is the reason why it was attached to the contract, because the contract is not good enough. And that's why they're together. And we asked the lawyer to do that, and the board went along with it. The 2 biggest problems I see that's going to be continuing from now and eternity is staffing and qualifications. You're always going to have new people in turnover, and you're going to have to train them continuously. And because we all lapse at times. So staffing and quality of people coming in will always be a big issue. And I just ask that the board and the new members that are not here continue with this process. I'm glad to hear you're going to send out another survey. The board should consider that maybe in the next contract sequence, should you renew. Don't expect changes. It's too soon. It's going to take a year for people to actually notice the differences, because they spend their time on their phone inside their house. and they don't all participate in activities, so don't expect a glowing review next time. It takes time. All right, thank you for listening, and it's not over yet. There's still lots to do. You already said that, but we hope that you will take this management and apply it to all the other communities that you service. Might be a good experience. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Gary. Anybody else in the audience want to say anything or any questions online? Anybody? Board. Charles?
Hey, this is Andrew.
Oh, hi, Andrew.
Hey, how you doing?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, I guess I would just want to add that appreciate the steps you're taking forward, but I feel we're a little bit off the mark where if we're cooking a meal, you guys are working on the garnish and the vegetables, but you burn the steak. And the steak would be the Spring Park playgrounds and a lot of those inefficiencies that still need to be fixed. So the presentation, I appreciate it, but you guys kind of missed the mark on what is really a pain in the homeowner's side right now. And that's having a park shut down for over a year. So
Well, but
something
Andrew,
that
the board is working on it. We've got a plan now in place and we should be seeing documents. I think you should start seeing movement on that. This is more forward looking to correct the deficiencies that just overall deficiencies that the board and the community have seen or, have perceived even, and how to make it run smoother going forward, I guess is a better way to say it. But yeah, point taken. But,
yeah, I mean,
this
it's
forward,
good. It's good that,
and we're working on it.
yeah, I appreciate those forward looking and fixing the other issues that are there, but the Grand Manors should be focused on getting that playground and park open for the community. That is number one
And
on the list for the homeowners.
Yeah, we are.
Do you want to answer where, like, what we're doing right now? Because Andrew, it's an excellent point, and there's a lot to unpack about the playground. And we do understand how important that is to the community. Again, if I'll say this is that if it were only up to management, perhaps it could have gone faster. That said, we did do our own things. I agree with you. I know where you're going, Jared. I know where you're going.
That's a bold statement to make.
I know it is. And sometimes
Because
I'm like,
it was up to management.
well, some
For a
parts
year,
were, and there,
it was.
again, a lot to unpack. There were some things that the board definitely put a stop to, and they wanted to take steps back and do things differently. Collectively, we all wish it would have gone better. And believe me, it pains me that we didn't get it done faster. And I mean we, because I know how much it means to the community. I don't even live here, and I know. And I know that is a sore spot for those that see that playground every day and wish it was already in place. That said, where we are today, we are taking the right steps to move forward to get it done correctly and to the expectations of the board and the community so that it's done right. I'm not saying management had no fault. I am not saying that. And I'm saying that publicly here in front of the group. But I think there were times where we brought things forward and unfortunately we were not able to move forward. So in all fairness, right, it's a relationship and that takes two to tango, as they say, right? So together, I think that,
Well, and I think Celia and I, since we've been on this entire journey, can attest to that.
mhm.
It's just not your fault and it's just not the board's fault. It was like the perfect storm of what could go wrong did,
Perfect storm.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't,
And
and I've said it before, Andrew, we shouldn't, and believe me, my grandchildren don't go to that playground because it's closed, but we shouldn't let just that define Grand Manners. It failed on my watch. It's still not complete, but we're doing everything we can to try to rectify it. So to say that they burnt the meat, the steak or whatever, yeah, I helped cook that steak and I burnt it too. But that can't define this management company that playground? Because there's
Yeah,
other
and
things
that's
that,
where I know there's blame to go around on both sides, so it is what it is. Not going to get into that, but what I'm going to tell you is you can do everything in your presentation today and pass on everything, but if you don't fix that park, Grand Manners is going to look like a failure to the community. So
Yeah,
we just need to
we
make
get
sure
that.
that's getting resolved sooner rather than later. That's always top on mind. That is Grand Manor's focus, to work with the board and the new board to get that resolved correctly, safely, and priority.
Yeah, it absolutely is, without a doubt.
It shows from the
And-
number of meetings we're having just with that as a topic recently.
Well,
But yeah.
and two with the playground. Look, I mean, the reality too is you need to incorporate the lessons learned with all of this, with the project management, with procurement,
Yes.
with the contracts. So, and especially as we start going down the path of master plan advisory group and capital builds and enhancements, because it's only going to get worse. Because the reality is, if we can't build a playground, we're certainly not going to be able to build a community center. Okay. So that's, we've got to get that stuff tightened, got to get it right. I want to there was just on a different topic, just something else. Food for thought for Stacy and the leadership team. Are you doing any type of like skip levels for the staff to, not necessarily, that it's an issue with going directly to Lauren, but do they have a path to talk to Demetrius directly or to Stacy directly with maybe any issues they're seeing? Or, I mean, have you given any thought to that? Because I've seen that be pretty beneficial in organizations.
So Charles, yes. And it almost sounds like you were kind of fly on the wall yesterday. I actually met with the leadership team, Lauren and Jeffrey, and I think about 8 of your leaders. And we had that open and honest conversation. We ripped the Band-Aid off. It was some tough subjects we touched on. They know I'm available. They have my contact information. I'm going to be here often, meeting with the team. My next meeting is going to be with the whole group. But yeah, skip level interviews are going to occur. And like I said, we're meeting with the group now, but I'll start meeting with each one of them individually in their work areas. We may even go off site so we can have more open and honest conversations on how they're feeling, what their expectations. And so, yeah, that is occurring.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sir.
Anybody else? I know, Lauren, Jeffrey, anything?
So can I just add, Charles touched on it, and Jared and I kind of been seatmates for the past couple of days in our meetings. And I just want to say, a lot of these things on the list, this is just us doing our jobs, right? We're not recreating the wheel. It's not rocket science. Nothing we're doing here is rocket science. This is us coming in every day, doing our jobs to the best of our abilities. I call it the pressure campaign, to Stacy's point, sliding back to where we were 8 months ago is not an option. It's not who we are. It's not who I am as the executive leader on this account. And I know right now it's all words, but I hear you. These two will tell you we've had some very intense conversations. I feedback in the moment. Don't write a list and let's get together in 3 months and talk about what's going on. No, if something happened at 7 o'clock, we're talking about it at 7:05. How can we improve it and learn from it and move on? So it's just not who I am as a leader. I will not allow these guys to be that way as a leadership team. And then the folks had to work from them. Like I said, the 8 leaders we met with yesterday, it's just not an option. It's just not what's going to happen. So I know the proof is in the pudding. So to Gary's point, you got 25 years to prove it to you folks.
I like that number too. Yeah, I mean, we'd be thrilled to be here for the next 25 years. And again, the fact that the board took the time to give us the feedback, the community took the time to give us the feedback. That is what we need in order to get better and be better. And so there's no other way for us to be successful unless we get that feedback from everybody, right? Because frankly, you're paying us to get the job done, and we need to do it to your expectations. There's the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated. I actually slant that a little, and I say treat others as they want to be treated, right? Not how you want to be treated, because that might not be how you want to be treated, right? So for us, we live by a golden rule in a different way. And so that's why we need to have continuous conversation. And we're looking forward to the new board that's coming in place, fresh ideas, great ideas, and partnering with them going forward, finishing up this action plan, putting a pin in that, using those things, Charles, as you said, the things that we've gleaned out that become best practices that are now going to be ongoing, and then continuing to build on that. Because as we know in this business, every new board has their thoughts, their ideas, the way that they'd like to see things done. So that's how we're going to proceed going forward, right? The action plan is almost a hindsight catch up. And then now how do we move forward together in, right, the way that the new board would like to see the community, taken care of, along with the residents, and how the residents need to be taken care of, partnering better with all the entities across Celebration. That's an important thing too, because Town Hall can do a fantastic job, but without the partnership of all the other entities in Celebration, we need them. We need to be partners with them. And so we have to continue to develop those relationships with all those other entities so that the community is happy. That's another important thing for us as we look forward. So there's always going to be work to do. And that's what we're here to do. That's what you're paying us for.
So on a note, since I'm out in the playgrounds all the time, I was at Long Meadow with my grandchildren, and I was talking to a couple of moms, and they know that I'm a board member, and they see me with my grandchildren, and they talk about it. And I say, I'm so sorry that you're going through this with Spring Park. And the one little girl, I don't know how old she was. She had two little toddlers. And she said, Celia, don't take it so hard. She goes, because if you take what's happening with Spring Park out of the scenario, which I can't because it's very real in our community. She says, what have they really done so bad? She says, compared to what this community used to look like. So I'm just going by what a resident said to me. And people notice the small things. They just
Might take them a while, but they do.
They do. So, this is from a resident who's got two children that can't go to Spring Park. She has to go to Long Meadow, park her car. She can't walk to Spring Park. She said, don't worry about it. She goes, it'll get done. She says, but if you just take it out of the whole frame, it's not the end of the world. So I just wanted to say that because residents talk to me all the time because I'm out there,
Well, and we know, and that when this was handed over to you, this was not a perfect community.
Right.
From the financials being, how many months behind were they? 2 or 3 months behind, and then just reorganizing everything, and with the service areas and all that stuff, and the stuff that has still bubbles up every once in a while. They find something that hasn't been done for Lord knows how long. So
Yeah, we have great events.
And we have great events, bigger and better and nicer. So, well, we have a hard stop at 5:30. It's 5:15. I see no reason to continue if everybody has gotten their questions answered. Going once, going twice. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll make the motion,
Celia,
Chair.
second? Oh, okay. Charles and Celia. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.